Hello students. So in this video, let's see what is the least upper bound and greatest lower bound. Least upper bound is also known as a LUB or join or operation, and the greatest lower bound is also known as a GLB, meet or and. Now these two terms are basically depends on a two terms. For example, least upper bound is based on the least element and the upper bound concept, and the greatest lower bound is depend on the greatest element and the lower bound concept. So if we know this concept very well, you can find out the LUB and GLB very quickly. So what is the least upper bound? It is nothing but just to find out the least element from the upper bound, and the greatest lower bound is nothing but finding out the greatest element from a lower bound set. Let's see the examples. So this is the hash diagram given to us of a particular PO set, and the B set is given to us wherein elements are C and D. So these are the two elements. Let's find out first lower least upper bound. So for this least upper bound, we need to find out the upper bound. So let's find out the upper bound of set B. So we have seen what is the upper bound. So from the definition we can see that E is nothing but the only element that come in a upper bound set. What is now least upper bound? Least upper bound is nothing but the minimum element, that is the least element from the upper bound. So only a single element is there in the upper bound. So let's check out if this element is a least or not. So let's say E is the, of course, least element because it is relating to itself, and E is the only element in a upper bound, and that's why E is what the lower least upper bound. What is the lower bound for this C and D? Lower bound, we can see that only A is nothing but a lower bound. Why not B in the lower bound? Because C is not related to B, and that's why A is the only element from a lower bound. What is the greatest lower bound? We need to find out maximum element from a lower bound. Only a single element is there in a lower bound. Check whether it is a maximum element or not. So only single element is there, and that's why we can say that this is what the greatest lower bound, and this is what the set. Let's check out for the another example. Another example is set B is given to us AB. The elements are given to in a set B are nothing but AB. Let's find out the upper bound. So upper bound, we can see that EDF are the upper bound. So this is what the upper bound. Let's find out the minimum element from this set. So EDF from these elements, which is the minimum element, is nothing but the D, because we can see that D is related to E, D is related to F, and the D is related to itself. That is nothing but the definition of minimum element, and that's why D is what the will come under the least upper bound. What is the lower bound for this A and B? There is no lower bound because no element is related to A and B, and that's why it is null. As this is a null, we cannot find out the greatest lower bound, and that's why this is a null set. Let's see the another example for the same. The elements are given to are E and F. So let's find out the upper bound. Upper bound will be null because no element exists such that E or F is related to it, and that's why the set will be null. As this is null, we can see that least upper bound set will be also null. What is the lower bound for this EF? Lower bound, we can see that A, B and D are three elements which come under a lower bound. Out of these three elements, we need to find out the maximum element. So the according to the definition, we can see that D is what the maximum element, where every element is related to that element, and that's why it is eligible to be a maximum element, and that's why D is what the greatest element from the lower bound, and this is what become a greatest lower bound. So this is how we can see how to find out the least upper bound and the greatest lower bound. The only prerequisite is you must know the upper bound, lower bound, and greatest element and the least element. Least upper bound is what? The finding out the least element from the upper bound, and the greatest lower bound is nothing but the finding out the maximum element from the lower bound. This is very simple. You can try for the another examples. The examples are given to are, that is example 2, and another example, this is example number 3. You try by your side first, and then cross check your answers. Thank you.